Everyone dreams of living an uncommon life, and the best asset you have to achieve your dreams is you. Welcome to the Uncommon Wealth Podcast. We're going to introduce you to people who are living uncommonly. We're also going to give you some tools and strategies for building wealth and for pursuing an uncommon path that is uniquely right for you.
Hello and welcome everybody to Uncommon Wealth Podcast. I'm your host, Phillip Ramsey. Thank you for tuning in. Today we're going to talk about something that I think is super important, and it is if you're thinking about going down this uncommon path, what are the steps? What do you do? How do you prepare for it? All that good stuff. So if you're new to this, if this is your first time listening, one, thanks for listening. Two, we are advisors here, Uncommon Wealth Partners, that believe you are your best asset. And so sometimes what that looks like is starting your own business or doing something that you've always wanted to do, but you never actually did it. Maybe you're working at an 8 to 5 job, working for somebody else, and just have always had this idea. Well, it really depends on like your risk tolerance, on how quickly you jump into this. Like, do you go head first? Do you test the waters a little bit? That all is dependent on your risk tolerance. But what I thought was important, I just had a conversation actually earlier this week with a gentleman that is like, I really want to do this, but what are the steps in order for me to feel confident in doing it? Okay. So the first thing is, I believe, if you're really going to go down this path, you probably should set up an LLC. You don't necessarily need that, but I think it's helpful. It just makes it like pretty solid and solidified. It feels official. You get to name that LLC. There's something about that. But once you do that, then you have some entity that you are now trying to focus on. Let's say a side project. For this example, let's say being a plumber. I don't know, just throwing this out there. Always wanted to be a plumber. You have the license, you have the stuff. Maybe you're working for a company that is a plumbing company. The next thing is just to see like what kind of agreements have you like officially signed with the company. Like, can you do this? Like, that's kind of the first thing. Can you do it on the side? I know a lot of electricians, that's totally okay if they do it on the side. It's kind of a no, maybe it is. I don't know. But definitely look at that and see what your current kind of like agreement is with the current company you have. But then let's just work at Wells Fargo and you've always wanted to be a plumber. That will probably be no problem if you're doing it on nights and weekends. Okay. So then once you understand your circumstance and your, I think like regulations and all that stuff, and you have your LLC, you understand your company and what you can and can't do. Then it's like, how can we get jobs and and maybe your family and friends already use you for construction or plumbing, whatever. But then you need to start charging, like kind of create a business plan of like, hey, here are the opportunities. This is the different kind of services I'm going to provide. And this is what I can do for people. Okay. Once you've established that on the business side, then it's just starting to get jobs. And also, if you're married, make sure that the time you're working on this is both mutually like agreed upon. So if you're like really working hard at your day job and then you get home at night and you're gone and you're not helping with the kids or the family or whatever, that could be stressful. So as long as you're both in agreement. So I think that's first one is understand your agreement that you have your current company or LLC. Understand the agreement, maybe understand the agreement, then LLC, then talk it over with your spouse and just make sure they're on board. And then start getting these jobs. So the other thing that I think is hugely important, and you can do this before you do all this, is understanding your monthly budget as a household, your personal monthly budget. How much money do you actually need to come in order for you to pay your bills? That's a big deal. Okay. And I think this is something often overlooked, and you go to the fun stuff, maybe that's the LLC or actually doing the jobs, but you never really understood like how much do I actually need to make in this next endeavor in order to provide for my family, whatever that may look like. Maybe there is none. Like maybe you are a person and your spouse is working full time, and the honest answer is like, I don't need to make much. That would be an ideal scenario, but that's not everybody's scenario. So actually understanding what your monthly need is as a personal budget is hugely important, and something you can do this well before you even start this business, before you start an LLC and all that stuff. I think you understand your monthly expenses, so much so that you know that, okay, I need to have at least $3,000 that comes in order to provide for my family, or whatever that number is. It could be 7,000. It could be 13,000 a month. I'm totally dependent on your situation. Okay. So once you understand that, then it's kind of a risk tolerance thing. Like, okay, I know I need to make $7,000 every month. And on average, when have put my mental capacity and my focus on this, I'm making about $5,000 a month, let's just say. Then you have to make the hard decision. Like, is this business going to keep growing if I can't fully have my focus and attention on it because I'm working at somewhere else full time? Then that's a total decision of like, okay, we're going to take a leap of faith. We're going to jump off the proverbial bridge, and then we're going to see if our parachute opens. But at least you have a runway and a track record to say and see that, hey, on average, I'm about $5,000 per month. If I think I can do this full time, then I believe that I can make up the delta of that $2,000 if my family needs $7,000 in order to provide for my family. So I think those are kind of the steps at least I counseled this individual for and with, and I know it's scary. And yet there's so many other people that have done this. And at the end of the day, if you could work as hard as you're working for somebody else, chances are like things are going to go good. I don't know if maybe they're going to be hard, but I have a feeling that you're going to be able to make ends meet. At least that's been my experience with the people that I've counseled and coached. Yeah, things come up that you're like, I didn't expect that. But at the end of the day, the things that you learn while you're on this uncommon path far outweigh the risks, in my opinion. Now, if it doesn't work out and you've made a calculated risk, you can always go back and get a job. Now, that sounds scary. I totally get it. But those are kind of like, you got to weigh those out. Like, hey, what are my risks? What are my kind of like risk tolerance? What am I acceptable with? And is the benefits outweigh the risk? There will always be risk, no matter what. Like, let's say your company is generating $8,000. All you need is $7,000 and you're still not working on it full time. There's still a risk of like health insurance. Like, that's a big thing. What do we do with that? These are all questions that a lot of people have answered. A lot of people have had. And honestly, that's a lot of the reason why people don't go down this uncommon path, is just questions like that. But there are answers to those questions. And this is an easy way to step off and try to understand what are the steps in order to get to this uncommon path, or to get on top of the railing of the bridge and looking down and then figuring out what you need to do to jump. So, I hope you enjoyed this one. This was a fun one for me to talk through just because I just had this conversation earlier this week. But at the end of the day, if you have this itch and this yearning to do something and start something and create something, I believe that we were called to create, then I'm here to encourage it. I'm here to stoke the flames. And Uncommon Wealth is here is just to tell you that there's other people who've done this and they are thriving. And there's other people that have done it and haven't been thriving, and yet they were still excited they did it because they learned so much more than they ever have done at the desk job. Anyway, so you've been listening to the Uncommon Wealth podcast. Until next time, go be uncommon and maybe think about what the steps look like for you in order to take one step closer to being on your own uncommon path. Thanks again for listening. Have a good day.
That's all for this episode, brought to you by Uncommon Wealth Partners. Be sure to visit uncommonwealth.com to learn more about our services. Don't miss an episode as we introduce you to inspiring people who are actively pursuing an uncommon life.